So there are many different reasons that you might want to do an oil change. Sometimes you'll be at your mileage, which I recommend every 3,000 miles, especially if you're a harder rider, maybe even every 2,500. But that's just purely up to you. In my case, it's kind of hard to see, but mine was leaking from my oil filter. Sometimes this happens with canister filters since they run different kinds of gaskets. It's just kind of what happens. It was getting on my kickstand here, so time to do it. All right, so whenever you want to do an oil change on your bike, one of the first things you're going to need is your filter, and this is the only brand I'm going to be buying. Correction on that last part, it's actually going to be for internal filters that I use K&N, but for externals, I have a couple other brand preferences. Now, me personally, I have used the K&N oil in the past, 13 bucks a quart, it's not too bad. I've never had any issues with it. I change my oil every 3,000 miles, so really not a big deal, but they only have 2 quarts of it. So I'm going to be going to my next best friend, and we're going to be getting some Mobile One. It's about $15.50 a quart, and it's not too bad at all. In fact, it's probably one of the best, minus like Motul or like Redline, but 22 to 23 a quart on my bike is over $100, and I'm not doing that. So yeah, Mobile One it is.
Filter, 5 quarts of oil.
Yeah, 1 filter, 5 quarts. Alright, so once you do the first step of grabbing your oil and filter, the second step that you want to do, and this is technically optional, but it is just good practice, and that is to go ahead and start up and let your bike run for a good like 3 minutes or so. Just get it like warmed up, get that oil moving and everything. This is more of a courtesy to yourself, but it is really helpful. Make sure to pop your oil cap first. This will help relieve the pressure so then it just drains freely, especially after you just warmed it up. That is just kind of like a nice thing. And make sure that your gasket is there. Mine just kind of is right here, but yeah, just make sure that you maintain all your gaskets and hold on to everything. So first thing I'm going to pull is my canister right here. This is going to be just where my leak was coming from here. And then just make sure you have your, tray underneath. You do not want to have a garage floor full of oil. I have been there, done that. Not my favorite thing in the entire universe. And while it's kind of leaking out, just maybe look at the oil, make sure you don't see anything odd like, chunks or anything like that. This one looks pretty clean. I did mine actually only like 2,300 miles ago, I want to say, so not too far ago. Just kind of was leaking, so I had to replace it, unfortunately. Alright, so the next step is you want to locate your drain plug, which is typically going to be on the lowest point of your motor. Now, in my case, my bike has a drain plug here and another drain plug up top here, and then it has the canister. So I technically have 3 different drain plugs. Just make sure to, look out for your bike, maybe check your manual, things like that. But here we go. There it is. Nice clean oil, nothing too crazy. No metal flakes or anything going on in there. You just want to check for metal flakes. And then this is for, I believe this is for my crankcase right here on this bike. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. There you go. And that is that and that down there. See how this is still draining? Well, that one's already gotten, there they go. Now they're even. But like this technically holds oil up here, and this is most of my oil, and then this is my filter. And there you go. And just kind of make sure it's not all milky or anything like that. This looks pretty good. I'm not seeing any metal flakes. Alright, so when you pull it out, it's going to look something like this. I've already kind of loosened mine just to get mine loose to make it a little easier. But this top is going to come off, and then you're going to want to just kind of clean this stuff. Just make sure it doesn't have any sediment or anything in it. And then the filter will come off. I had to kind of twist mine off. I think that's probably what the failure was, to be honest. It was probably the seal warped or something like that. And that's what was causing my leak. Oh, nice. I dropped it. Hey.
12 seconds later.
Anyways, my ass hurts. Then you take this gasket off and you want to replace this, you get a new one. And then you have this little washer here. I would just inspect this. As long as it's not all like screwed up or anything, you should be good to reuse it. And same thing with this spring. Just kind of check the spring. Make sure it's not like, you know, oh, it's overly squishy or something where it's just like not doing its job. So then you just kind of want to put that washer back on the top there. Because everything is so easy on YouTube tutorials, I kind of went in and put it back together. It kind of just goes back together the way it came apart. Don't forget your spring. Don't forget your don't forget your gasket replacement, you know, all that stuff. Make sure the gasket is flush on there when you're tightening it back up. All right, now that we have this ready, and this ready, I went and put all three of mine in. You may only have just like your canister and your one drain. Just make sure that you put everything on torque to spec, which spec is snug, snug, snug. And then on this one again, you just want to make sure you're torqued to spec, which is just snug, snug, snug. You don't want to be too tight. You don't want to like crank these things on like Soulja Boy and then it just fucking strips out and leaks everywhere. Now this one's a little bit harder because of being a canister. You have to be careful not to tighten it too much. You have to make sure that you're not pinching off any gaskets. And then, hey bud. And then, yep, just kind of torque it until it kind of snug, snug, snug. And then make sure everything's all sealed there, because that's what was leaking on mine last time. Alright, now you're going to want to go ahead and clean off any parts that were covered in oil, especially if you had like an oil leak or anything. You're going to want to go ahead and clean all that, just so you can make sure that there's no other oil leaks forming or any other oil leaks that start or anything like that. Because oil is super dangerous while you're riding. If you get oil like on your rear tire and something blows out and it goes on your rear tire, it's like riding on ice. Ask me how I know. Alright, so now it's time to add oil. You're all tight on the bottom. You've already drained everything. You've done everything. So you want to get you a funnel that can feed into here, and then get you a gremlin that can help you with opening up all the oil. And now we add our, $15 a quart oil, because that's cheap. Alright, so once you start adding oil, you're going to see this level here if you have an old-ass bike like I do. Or if you're cool enough, you may have a dipstick, completely up to your manufacturer. But in my bike, because this bike has some, rod bearing, issues on like high RPM, the way that they prevent it is they just tell you to just make sure you fill it all the way up. So in my scenario, I need to make sure that I fill that, eyeglass all the way up. And some bikes, they say fill it up halfway. It just really depends on your manufacturer. So for me, I only needed about like 3.5 of these Mobile Ones. All right, now that your sight glass is full, everything's full, you've added your oil, now you want to go ahead and start up your bike. And you're going to see that oil level is going to drop, and you're going to want this to run for a little bit. Then you want to let it idle for, probably 15-20 seconds or so. Kind of let the oil get through it all. Now you're going to slowly see this start to fill back up. And then once it gets done kind of filling up, wait probably like a minute or so for it to kind of settle out. And once it settles, then add a little bit more oil if you need to add a little bit more. And then, yeah, that'll be it. Alright, so now we see it's kind of settled. It's not moving anymore. And like I said, my bike does want that sight glass filled all the way up just because of the previous mentioned issues where sometimes the crank case will starve. So just want to add a little bit more and fill mine up to the top, and then that'll be it.